My name's Terry Rossell. Everybody calls me TJ. I'm a junior. I come from a small town in Michigan called Me Sick. So then I figured out what was wrong with me. You know.
Oh, it's called Me Sick. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Me Sick, Michigan. My parents divorced when I was real young, and I was a latchkey kid, so I was on my own a lot. And we moved to a town in southern Michigan, and then when my stepfather died of cancer, we moved to Florida, to Bradenton, Florida. So I went from like a Class D school to a 4A school.
Oh, wow.
Which was very difficult. But I got along, and I started in construction, so I did electrician's apprenticeship for a few years. But I was an alcoholic, you know, and a drug addict at a young age. Like, I used to have liquor bottles in my school locker.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit. So we know you were born in Michigan. When did you move to Arizona?
About 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved as an adult. What was it like? What was like childhood like? Like, did you have siblings that you were close to or anything?
I had like one whole sister, you know, through my mother and father, and then later my mother had another child, and then my father started another family. So yeah, I have stepbrothers and sisters, and then when my first stepfather died, my mother remarried.
Mm-hmm.
So then he had kids too. So a lot of stepbrothers and then half sisters and things like that. So,
are any of them out here? Are you?
No, I'm the only one here. No.
Okay. So what brought you to Arizona in the first place?
I answered an ad on Craigslist
Okay.
for work. And then when I arrived, the people hadn't been truthful to me, and nothing they said, like the property that they had bought, they want me to work on, they didn't even have the property. So, and I was recovering because I'd moved to Florida, back to Florida, Daytona Beach, to go into a sober living and get sober. And yeah, so I came here kind of like
Okay.
on accident.
So it sounds like you came here for work, and then that didn't work out. And so did the alcohol or drug use, did that start, well, you said it's when you were a child or when you were younger?
Yeah, 12, 13.
12, 13. Do you remember like the first time you drank or?
Oh yeah, it was at like a stepbrother's wedding, and it was the best feeling I ever had in my life, you know? Like, I wanted to do that every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it by yourself or did?
No, I mean, they let us.
Oh, your family, your parents?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then all the whiskey that was left over from the wedding we had at the house, so it was on. Yeah.
So is it, do you feel like, is it something that runs in the family, or is it just something you picked up?
No, I think it runs in the family. My father quit drinking 30 some years ago. He's gone now, but yeah, it ran in the family.
So did they know because they caught you drinking, or?
No, I mean, it was like acceptable. Like, it was just acceptable. I mean, like, it was okay at the wedding, but if they would have known what went on after, it wouldn't have been okay.
So tell me more about, so from 12 on, so what was alcohol like? Like, what was the journey?
It was just like, I didn't have to feel anything anymore, you know? It was just, I felt great, and there wasn't any, until like high school, there wasn't any consequences. Like, then I got kicked out of school and things like that, getting drunk at a football game, and almost died, turned blue, yeah, alcohol poisoning. And it was, you know, it didn't really, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it didn't really become a problem apparently until later on in life. Mm-hmm. But then I quit working in construction and I became a bartender. I worked in restaurants because then I could drink and work, you know.
So you would drink at work. I want to back up 1 second, because you said that you ended up getting kicked out of school. Was it due to drinking?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a 3-day suspension. It was either 3 whacks with a paddle or 3-day suspension. So I wouldn't, well, I'll just stay home and drink then.
Okay. And then tell me when the drugs came into play.
When I was about 16, 17. Yep. I had actually gotten my first felony for stealing car radios in Bradenton, Florida, to buy crack.
Okay.
But they withheld adjudication. That way it wouldn't be in my record if I did well, you know.
Okay. Oh, so you were able to, after a while, get it expunged.
Yeah, it doesn't show up. It's like a closed file
Got you.
if you complete
Oh, that's
probation.
good. And so you mentioned that you didn't feel anything. Do you feel like there was like something that you were trying to like escape? Was there something happening?
I just never felt like I belonged anywhere. Like I didn't belong in any certain group in school. Like I was in band, I played basketball, and I did things like that up until about 15 when I found out I had ankylosing spondylitis and it was severe pain, and I didn't know where that was coming from. So the doctors at 15, I think, put me on Darvocet.
Darvocet. I've never heard of that one. So
They don't make it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Causes people. There was a big thing on the TV about if people commit suicide and depression and stuff.
Oh, wow. So that was the side effect.
Yeah.
Did it take the pain away at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure did.
So that was at 16, and then I know you said your mother remarried a couple of times. So what was life like around that time, around 16 years old?
Around 16, my stepfather had gotten colon cancer, and he was dying. And then my mother just kind of lost it, and she was doing the best she could, but she couldn't handle it. So she sold the house in Michigan, and we moved to Florida as like a, like I said, geographical for her.
Okay.
And I wasn't getting along with my father, so I had to go. So we all moved to Florida.
And how was Florida?
Well, Florida was great. I mean, I had a three-wheeler that my mom had bought me when my stepfather died for passing all my classes, straight D's.
But you passed.
But I passed. Well, I'd been a straight A student for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So I traded that for a 1949 Willys Overland Express. And it's a beach, in all the beaches and stuff. So that was okay, but I still didn't fit in. I didn't have a lot of friends unless they were over at my house drinking. So we had a keg in the fridge at the pool.
If you had to choose, which one had the stronger hold on you at that time?
At that time, the crack did, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And so so we go from Michigan to Florida, and then eventually Arizona. So what made you want to leave Florida?
I'd gotten married, and I started doing resorts. So I went to Martha's Vineyard for the summer, and she came up there. And then when we come back, we started living together, and I got married. I mean, we were together for about 6 years, and then the marriage only lasted a year.
Oh, wow.
Because that's when I really got into cocaine. Mm-hmm. And, I was unemployable, dropped out of college. I've been to college a few times too.
What is your mental state like at that point after the divorce?
I was a wreck. Yeah, I was a wreck. I didn't know what to do. And, I tried to be sober for a while for her, but there was already too much damage done. So it wasn't going to help anything. So I left. I ended up I went to New York City, and I ended up back on Martha's Vineyard. And then I finally came back to Michigan because I didn't have anything left. I drank and drugged my way to nothing. So
when you went to Michigan, was that to your parents' house?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
To my father's.
Are you sober today? Are you sober now?
I've relapsed, but yeah, I'm not anywhere near I was. Like, okay. I'll have a few drinks now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things I'm going through right now, mm-hmm. But I was a GSR in AA, and I really want to get back into that because that's when I had all the joy and happy, and God still looks out for me, and I started recognizing that when I first got sober.
So tell me, okay, I know, I feel like everyone is familiar with AA. What is GSR?
General Service Representative. Man, but I've been a lot of places. Like, I moved to Edinburgh. I lived in London. Yep. So the situation coming here was just, again, I had nothing left, and I was drinking at the time. And the people were drinking that I was supposed to work for. Mm-hmm. And I had my big book in my bag, and they're, 40-some years old, acting like little kids. And I'm sleeping in the living room behind a screen, a Japanese screen. Mm-hmm. And I broke up my big book, and then I started going to AA there. I called AA, and a guy picked me up, and I did really, really good for a long time.
So you feel like the people that you came to work for, they were like a bad influence?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what year was that?
2018, I think.
2018. Okay.
2017. And they're fighting and running out in and out the doors. It was chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'd left chaos and I didn't want to deal with chaos. And so I moved into a sober living like the next few days. And I had to call my brother, who hated me, just to get the first week's rent so I could move in there. And he did it, you know, and it saved my life. Because later on, the lady wanted me to manage the place. And then I met a woman. You know, I stayed away from women for about 7 years because I didn't feel like I had nothing to give anybody. You know, so I just stayed out of relationships, just stayed out of everything. And then I met a woman on Zeus, and I thought she was great. But little did I know that she was searching everything I do, everything I did. She got me thrown out of the sober house. And for the past 4 years, I've been running from her.
So you met her at Zeus?
Zeus is like the Facebook dating app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is around the time when you start getting on track and you were pursuing a relationship at this point?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I'd started working for a big construction company in Sedona, doing custom work and learning a lot, you know. I mean, multi-million-dollar homes on multi-million-dollar lots. And so I felt I was doing good. You know, I'd gotten a vehicle. Still didn't have a driver's license, but I'd gotten a vehicle so I could go to work. And I started seeing her, and it was great. You know, it was nice to finally have somebody that I thought was on the same page,
mm-hmm.
you know, that was successful and, you know.
Mm-hmm. So you guys, you met her, you felt like she could be like your ideal partner, and then what was the...
It was one day I stopped to see my sponsor. I was doing a job, and she was waiting for me at the sober house because she lives in Phoenix and come up to visit me. And I was coming back, and after I'm standing there talking to him, and I get a call, and she just starts screaming at me, like, where the hell are you at? Like, she lost her mind on me. It was the first time, like, any of that had ever happened. Mm-hmm. And later on, I found that it's because she had gone through all my paperwork in my room and stuff and saw that I was, like, writing women in prison and, you know, seeking relationships. You know, it's like, well, that's how I found you. Mm-hmm. I mean, what, you know, I didn't understand it, and I still don't. It's not love, it's control. And I didn't, because I haven't been in like a real relationship since I was married 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to deal with it. And that was another problem, is that's why I drank and used drugs, because I didn't know how to deal with life. You know, I didn't know how to deal with life. I mean, my mom did my taxes. My mom, you know, mm-hmm. So it was very difficult to deal with for me. And then when I broke up with her, it was like just before my 50th birthday, she like keeps manipulating her way back in and then explode on me, you know, and then that would be a big fight, argument. You know, I've called the police on how many times, and it kind of took everything away that I had, because I was big in AA, and she didn't like that, you know, that I was so open with people and that people knew my story and all that stuff. And any woman is a threat. So she would pose and write letters to intergroup saying that I used my position to 13-step newcomers and things like that. And just, you know, totally assassinate my character. And then I started feeling like, well, if I'm going to do everything right, and this is still going to happen, what's the point, you know? So then I relapsed again, and everything kind of went out the window. But then I got back into AA, and you know, everything was good. I just kind of kept her at bay. Like, I just traveled 2,000 miles to Michigan to get away, and now I have to come back because now the prosecutor's office is finally going to help me with her. Yeah.
So basically, like, right off the bat, she was like stalker energy.
In my phone, I didn't know that she'd be watching me, and got the codes to my phone, so she's in all my accounts. She'd say that she wanted to help me, like if I had something to do online or something like that, when really she was just stealing my passwords and codes. I think there's just something mentally wrong with her. I mean, she was married for 20-some years, but I met her husband, and he's pretty beaten down. You know, he moved back to New Jersey to get away from her.
Oh, wow.
But they have 2 kids, so he has to have contact with her.
When you said you hadn't talked to your brother in a while, but he was the person that gave you the money you needed for the sober house. So what was that like?
You know, what got me sober in the first place is when my mother said, don't call me, don't text me. You know, and that's when, you know, and there's a lot of other things that happened between that. And yeah, that was pretty powerful when he did that for me. And because he was part of me getting disinherited, you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they like. So was it the drugs and alcohol that? Oh, okay. So.
Yeah, 'cause my father was dying, and I was supposed to be taking care of him and living there, and I was just off the hook, and yeah.
Okay.
So I wasn't a very good person. That was the worst. Well, I've been to prison. I mean, I've been to prison for drinking and driving and drugs, and I broke into a pharmacy with an axe. So if you Google my name, my mugshot comes up. Yeah.
So how long did you end up having to? How much prison time?
The first time I did 20 months, and the second time I did 24 months.
Okay.
And then 3 years on parole each time.
So that was around the time when you were consumed in the crack addiction and the alcohol.
Everything, drugs, alcohol, everything.
Okay, and so then that's when your family, you guys, it kind of like affected your relationship.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
So how are things now with the family?
My mother passed away. My father passed away. I have my sisters who I just visited in Michigan. I stayed with the one sister, and those relationships are getting better.
Okay.
Yeah, but like with my brother and sister from my dad, we still don't really,
Really
I mean, my brother, we'll talk a little bit here and there, but
okay,
that's about it.
And are you still part of the AA program, or are you?
I'm going back. I haven't been, but
Okay.
I just got back into town like a week ago. I just need to find a good group, and
then you can get reconnect. Because is that like a lifetime? I feel like I've heard that it's like a lifetime, a lifetime membership.
Well, there's a joke because I was also the Grapevine rep, so I tell jokes at meetings and stuff from the Grapevine. And there was one that was like two alcoholics. They were at a meeting and they'd just been in jail together. And the one alcoholic says, "Man, judge gave me 90. I have to do like a year of this or something." And he goes, "What about you?" And he goes, "I think I have to come for the rest of my life." He goes, "Dang, what judge did you get?" Because these people have done the same things. They've been in the same places, so they could relate, not judge. We'll still judge, but I related to them, and I felt like I belonged somewhere finally. And yeah, it was like a whole new family. Well, it's funny. The first prison sentence, that's the first time I did heroin. Was in prison in Jackson, Michigan. Yep.
What?
First time I ever did heroin was in prison. Yep.
I mean, I'm saying,
Well,
you hear these stories, but okay, so paint the picture for me.
Well, I was on, what was it? I'd stolen like 6 of my dad's cars, and I had a .357 Magnum, and they gave me, I did 9 months in jail, and then I did 3.5 years on probation, but then I started drinking again. So I got picked up on something, so they slapped me with the first sentence. And so I ended up in prison, and my doctors, for some reason, they still gave me morphine in prison. So I was getting morphine.
So does that contribute to the addiction, the morphine?
Oh yeah, morphine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because with ankylosing spondylitis, it's severely painful.
Okay.
So, and I didn't drink for a long time because I had morphine. Yeah. So,
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay, but with the situation, you said you got introduced to heroin the first time in prison.
in prison, yeah.
So, and that was by another inmate, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it must be easy to
It wasn't easy and it wasn't cheap.
So it's way more expensive than if you just buy it on the street.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
5 times more. Yeah.
Oh.
But I had money because I'd been approved for disability finally, and that's what really got me. It was I was almost to where I would have been self-supportive and all that. And then when the judge hit that gavel, because everybody was just saying you'll go back on probation because it wasn't that big of a deal. But the guy in front of me must have made him really angry or something because he brought drugs into the jail. And then bang, he just said 20 months. And I was expecting just to walk out and go home that day. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in jail, and then 3 days later, I'm in Jackson.
Yeah.
And that was
so you
shocking.
were you sober while you were in prison, or
Not the first time, the second time.
the second time?
Then I got out of prison. I'd been on parole for about 2 years, and I'd gotten my own place, but I got back into drugs, and I was going back either way, and just a lot of bad things were going, and I gave up. Jumped up one night and grabbed an axe, and I just walked downtown and went through the pharmacy window and first drawer I opened was full of fentanyl patches, and it was snowing, so it took like the cops an hour and a half to get there, so I was gone. But I went back to the hotel that parole had put me in, so they knew where I was at. You know,
And they knew it was you? Like, how did
oh
they
yeah,
know?
it was on camera, and everything,
camera
but I
and
didn't
everything.
care. I don't know if I can tell you. I tried to kill myself with the fentanyl.
Oh, okay.
And I kept waking up with a needle stuck in my foot or stuck in the floor. And I couldn't die. And then they broke in and got me. I spent a few days in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to prison. But this time something had changed me. You know, like now I wanted to live, you know. And so I started AA in prison. And I was in there with like the mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, and he'd be up there speaking.
Oh, that's the guy that sold the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his wife had somebody killed and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was in there with him. But that time, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. You know, I just concentrated on what I was going to do after prison. Mm-hmm. And things started getting better. I got out of prison and I moved in with my mother. Mm-hmm. The second time I moved in with my mother, and everything was going okay. And then, man.
Is that when you relapsed at that time?
No, I did pretty good for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then I relapsed after that.
Okay.
Yeah, life wasn't getting better, and I didn't do AA after prison.
Okay,
like I just went to AA in prison to get out of myself for an hour, you know. And I didn't have a sponsor and things like that. I didn't really know how the program worked because I'd been to AA meetings. It was just a bunch of old fogies, you know. I didn't understand what they were saying. Yeah. But it just wasn't my time yet, you know. I hadn't lost enough yet.
You were sober for some time, and then we know in 2018 you moved to Arizona.
Well, 2016 I moved to, because that was my whole plan. And I was headed back to prison with the things I was doing. I'd been questioned by the state cops again. And he just said, and he did a weird thing because I had warrants all over the different counties for little small things like driving without a license or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So he could have taken me to any jail. So when he questioned me, I was running the numbers in my head. I'm thinking, that's a 10-year felony. With my record, that's a life sentence. Mm-hmm. So he did a weird thing. He drove me to my mother's house and let me go, unhandcuffed me, and just said, don't leave town. So I hid out, and I told him what I was trying to do, though. I told him I want to get to Florida. I'm going into a sober living. Yeah. I'm going to go to detox and then a sober living. And he dropped me off. And then it took me about 10 days to get out of town. But the funny thing is, you know, after being sober for a while, and I had an old warrant from 1994 in Florida. Mm-hmm. When they picked me up, I found out that thing in Michigan, they turned it into a 6-month misdemeanor somehow.
So it wasn't a misdemeanor before?
No, it was a 10-year felony.
Oh, see, so God was right there. You tried to kill yourself.
That's when I started recognizing. It takes a lot. I must be hard-headed because it took a lot for me to get it, you know, and have that moment of clarity. But then I started seeing little things happen, you know, and it just made me realize that I had to go through all that to be where I was then. I just like to be left alone so that I can grow without having it taken out from under me. It was hard enough, just getting back to being a person, you know, a regular, helpful, I help people. I try to help people the most I can, and that's what helps me.